Commissioners' regular meeting is now called to order. I do ask that you turn off all cell phone devices and please keep inside our conversations to the minimum. I will begin with our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Bishop Biggers. Please stand and join us if you choose to.
Amen. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Such an honor and privilege to come to serve you tonight and to offer up prayer on behalf of our community, of our nation, and for each other. Such an essential part of life. I want to thank the mayor and everyone for inviting me, giving me this opportunity again to pray with you and for you. Let us pray now. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, God, for being so merciful towards us. You're always providing for our needs, our desires, even our wants. We thank you today, God, that we are redeemed. Father God, we thank you for your saving grace. Father, we just ask you now, God, for your blessing, God, upon this community, upon our leaders, God. We thank you now, God, for the leadership that you have put in place, Father God, of the mayor and her team, God, her committee, God, her council. We bless your name for their lives, God, and all that they contribute, God, to enhance living our community, our safety, our well-being. So we thank you for that this evening. We ask now, Father, that you will remember those that are sick, Lord, that you will continue to heal and deliver. We especially lift up to you our homeless population, and we ask you now, God, for the provisions, God, to meet their needs. God, you know what the weather is like. Oh, we just want to give you thanks this evening. We want to take a pause out to tell you how wonderful you are to us. Oh God, we are praying for those that are grieved and heavy heart. Be the lifter of their heads, God. Bind up every wound. We just love you, God. You always take care of us. We do give you glory and we give you honor. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. 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 The pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Bishop Biggers. Once again, it is extra lovely to see our boardroom filled and that we're filling out additional seats. So I know we have a bunch of special guests in the audience today, but I highly encourage you to not let this be your last time attending these meetings. This is your community, and we need you to be involved. We can't make all the decisions alone. Although we are residents, we can't do it alone. We need you, and we need your participation. So let's continue to keep this boardroom filled. All right, so I will move on to agenda item 3, additions or deletions, or excuse me, and deletions to the agenda.
I move to amend the agenda to add a closed session for personnel pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A6.
That will become a new business agenda item D, and everything else we want. I'm sorry, we'll do, not all those. We'll make that agenda item J, not B. Thank you, appreciate the question.
public comment, so we can discuss it to let the citizens know. We hadn't talked about it, but I think that for that public comment, we need to do something about it to let our citizens know when they come up. Then we need to get back with them to let them know that we're looking into their concerns.
This will be another, agenda item for new business, and we will do that. Let's make that one D, and then move everything. Let's make that one, agenda item A, and everything else will follow that. We want to separate the financial discussion.
Agenda item A.
A, and everything else will follow. So it'll be, under 8A will be discussion regarding, closed session, or excuse me, public comments. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to approval of the agenda. Commissioner Cooper?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda with the 2 additions.
Is there a second? Commissioner Thompson?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor? We can use our hands, it's kind of helpful to signal. Motion carries. Now, I entertain a motion to approve the consent items, which are the draft minutes of the January 12th, 2026 regular meeting, budget amendment BA 12 for FY 2026, and our quarterly reports, the second quarter for fiscal year 2025-2026. So moved. There's a Commissioner Cooper?
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Never been?
Need a discussion on budget amendment, 12, fiscal year 26, as well as, quarterly report, looks fine, but the budget amendment, 12.
Did you have a question?
A discussion about it, it's just a budget amendment, you wanna do it now? When we,
Commissioner Jackson?
I'm not sure, if I'm doing this correctly, but for the draft minutes of January 12, 2026, I wanna, make a motion not to approve them. Withdraw my approval.
No, we're not.
I'm not exactly sure how to do this, so.
right.
You don't want to approve the minutes for the January 20, or for January 12th?
No.
Okay, so let's start with, Mayor Pro Tem's. Now, did you want to move that to discussion? Take it out of consent items and move it to a discussion item?
Yeah, well, I don't want it to be approved, because I'm not gonna approve it, I'm not understanding the budget amendment, and there was some concerns, about the dollar amount that's on here. I mean, so.
So would it be best for us to just not approve it and then come back and discuss it at another time or during a work session?
What I can do is I can remove it from, the consent items.
Okay, thank you.
And we will,
Okay. Just disregard it, it's another page.
okay, one at a time. So, wait a minute, let me finish with Commissioner Jackson.
Okay.
So yes, if you can just remove item A, and then we can come back and discuss it in more detail. Thank you.
So, we're gonna remove the draft amendments for discussion at a later time.
Yes.
And we're going to move the the budget amendment to new business for discussion tonight.
Right.
You need to withdraw your motion, or restate it with conditions. So, we will, for the budget amendment, we will move that to, again, we're gonna do a lot of scratching on this one, so we'll make that one agenda item B, 8B. Is the budget amendment discussion for BA for BA 12 FY 2026. And remove the draft amendment, so we'll only be approving under consent items our quarterly report.
So I will withdraw my previous, motion, and then I will move for the said, corrections.
There's a second.
No.
Commissioner Cooper?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, motion, yeah, Ms. Jackson, I can't, because when she leaves up, I can't see you and I can't distinguish. Were you in favor?
Yes, I am. I wanted to comment on that. I'm not exactly sure with us raising our hands if that is appropriate for the statutes and stuff. So I would suggest that just in case until we can find out and make sure we're doing things in decent and order, that everybody maybe just move your mics closer to you and speaking to the mic.
There's no problem with raising the hands. There's all right. Motion carried. Did you bring it? We'll now move on to our public comments. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. The Board of Commissioners will not reply to questions taken during this time. A follow-up will be presented to you at a later date. We'll begin with Ms. Aviana Washington. Is this introduction? Please approach the podium.
Pull this down a little short. Peace and blessings, y'all. My name again is Aviana Washington. Do I have to say my address? Okay, yeah, I do. But I'm 26, I'm a Spring Lake native, and I really just wanted to introduce my business. I have a personal chef business called AV Social Suppers. I cater personal and corporate events. I have personal chef events where I do date nights or meal preps to families that need them. I also have an organization called AIDS Sustains that I'm building. It's short for AIDS Community Sustains Itself. Last year we were able to partner with the town of Spring Lake for their fall festival, and I was able to feed the community completely for free. We were able to feed 80, 85 people thanks to support from donors. This year we're trying to take it up a couple notches, not one notch, a couple. We're working a partnership to start a community garden here in Cumberland County, and we're looking for support. So whether you're able to sow a seed into this mission to help bridge this gap of food insecurity that is plaguing our community right now, or you're looking to volunteer to upcoming events, I just want to introduce them. I have some cards if anybody wants to talk or my numbers on it, so yeah.
Can you leave your cards with our clerk, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Betty Sanford? Good evening.
Good evening, my dear. Good evening to all of you. All of you. I'm happy to be here, and happy Valentine's Day. I don't want to see you. But anyway, you know my name. My name is Betty Sanford, and I would like to say that we have a few things that I need to find out why we are not doing, and I'm sure that you will get back with me on it. And it is the voting. Why are we going to Fayetteville to vote? Why don't we have a place over here in Spring Lake? I've been living in Spring Lake ever since 95. And I haven't had to go to Fayetteville to do all that voting and carrying on. It's been over here in Spring Lake. So we need to get that taken care of. The other thing is we have a lot of homeless people here. And we have a lot of things that's going on. People are building houses and apartments and stuff like that. And they say it's supposed to be for low income, but I don't think so. Because I checked some of the prices and people are renting houses for $1,117 and all like that. You got people that are on fixed income that cannot afford that. So what are they doing walking the streets? And I think we need to do something about it. Okay? housing, homeless people, people that don't have food, don't have clothes, you know, things like that. You'd be surprised at the people that live in their cars and they don't have anywhere to stay because the rent is so high. And the houses, the apartments that are over on Chapel Hill Road, how much are they? I don't see anybody moving in there. You got for lease and then you got for rent. I thought those houses, those apartments were supposed to be for low income. And if it's supposed to be for low income, that's what it needs to be, so that people that have fixed income should be able to move in those houses. And I'll let that 1 minute go to somebody else. You're welcome.
We will now move on to our presentations, beginning with our Black History Month proclamation. There we go. Sorry, and I will read this Black History Month proclamation. Whereas Black History Month is observed annually in February to recognize, honor, and celebrate the rich history, culture, and enduring contributions of African Americans to the social, economic, political, educational, and cultural development of the United States. And whereas African Americans have played a vital role in shaping the history and progress of North Carolina and the town of Spring Lake, demonstrating resilience, leadership, and excellence in the face of historic and ongoing challenges. And whereas the observance of Black History Month provides an opportunity for all residents to reflect upon the struggles for justice and equality, to acknowledge achievements too often overlooked, and to promote greater understanding, unity, and respect among all people. And whereas celebrating Black History Month strengthens our community by honoring diversity, encouraging civic engagement, and inspiring future generations to work towards a more inclusive and equitable society. And whereas the town of Spring Lake is committed to fostering a welcoming community that values the contributions of all residents and recognizes that diversity is a source of strength and pride. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the town of Spring Lake Board of Commissioners that the month of February 2026 is hereby recognized as Black History Month in the town of Spring Lake. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners encourages all residents, schools, civic organizations, and businesses to observe this month through educational programs, community events, and activities that celebrate African American history, culture, and achievements adopted this 26th day of January 2026. And I don't have to stress any importance because I'm sure everyone here understands the magnitude of that proclamation. So now we get to go to the fun stuff, my favorite parts of our board meetings, and we get to do some certificates of recognition for some of our star athletes in the town of Spring Lake. So I've got a bunch of them here, and we've got our volleyball championship winners, the Spring Lake Vipers. If you can stand up, tell me where are Spring Lake Vipers. Did we get our Vipers here? Our Vipers, but we will celebrate our Vipers by acknowledging Gabriel Barton, Audrey Kalisis, Yareli Colin Green, Scarlett Gross, Abigail Myra, Elizabeth Sias, Joella Sias, and Madison Williams. Give them a round of applause. And we also have some soccer superstars in the building. We got soccer superstars here? I see some soccer superstars. Can you please stand, our soccer superstars? When I call your name, you can come and get your certificate and line by the flag, and we're going to take some pictures. So we've got Kason Dodd, Cole Conyers, Marcus Barcadape Jr., Kay Townsend, Ian Sanchez, Singleton Princewell, Emmanuel Pegas.
By the flag.
Come on.
Oh, you can go. That's okay.
Alias Hodgson, Clifton Hackett, Marquand Johnson, Mercado Knight Jr., Jaleesa Livingston, and Gideon Marshall.
Don't sit down.
Don't sit down.
We're
gonna take a
flags.
And I've got Gideon, and Marquand, and all right. Congratulations. 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 And I do remember you. Oh, we need that to make you do. You can go back right now. You come forward. You over. You over. You over. There we go. Right here, right here. There we go. Can we see everybody? Can we see everybody? Yes, ma'am. Oh, just a moment. Smiles. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Also, wait, parents. We got a bunch of parents doing it. Let them all take parents.
Y'all can get closer if you want.
Oh, Awesome. Congratulations. Job worthwhile to know that we have something for you. It makes it all better. So we will now move on to new business, and we'll go with 8A, discussion regarding public comments. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. For several years, about 4, with the public comments, I'm just accustomed, if a citizen comes up with a public comment and a concern, that we get back with them, let them know that we're taking their concern in consideration and looking into it. And I think that we need to send a letter out to them to let them know that we have discussed it and their concerns is very important. I work for the citizens of this great town of Spring Lake, as well as all our employees, and we wouldn't have a job if the taxpayers and we didn't get back with them. So it's very important to me, as a board member, that we take your concerns and considerations, and it's very important that we let you know that we're concerned about your concerns. And we're gonna look into it and not just leave it as it is, as it's been stated. Regina Zadu was the last one on the 12th to speak, asking the same question, why is it that we never get back with the citizens when they get up with their concerns? So I think as a board, we need to take that in consideration to at least get a letter out to them and look into their concerns. I was there. felt very important.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item 8B. And this is discussion regarding budget amendment BA 12 FY 2026. Commissioner Jackson. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's me.
No, you said the draft minutes off. I'm like, sorry about that.
You're fine.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. The budget amendment 12B, it was on the, January 12th as well. But looking over, it's for the grant for Cumberland County Arts. It was $4,000, looks like they gave to them. But when I look at the budget amendment, so if we can understand it a little bit more, and it looks like it's saying here that $7,000 need to come from the budget.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, there it is, that's nice.
All right.
And, then, if you go over here and you see the amended budget, which is $11,000. So for some explanations, because this is not enough for me to kind of understand the size. I know the front page states that, they awarded them with a grant of $4,000.
Okay. Each year, the Fayetteville Arts Council gives us a grant of $4,000. That grant of $4,000 that they give us every year has already been included in the original budget. This year, a few weeks ago, they gave us an additional grant of $7,000. Now, general statutes require that all money that we receive and spend has to be budgeted. The $7,000 additional grant, which we did not anticipate, was not included in the original budget because we didn't know we were going to get it. So we are increasing that grant from the Arts Council from $4,000, add 7, that makes it $11,000. All in revenue. In our expenses, we had $10,000 in our Parks and Rec department, this is the only thing in Parks and Rec because Fayetteville, Cumberland County has taken over Parks and Rec. Well, this and the debt service on the rec building are the only thing in Parks and Rec. We had $10,000 already budgeted that we spent. That was the $4,000 grant this year plus the money we had left over from last year. And then we're appropriating the $7,000, so that'll bring our expenses to $17,000. It is yet to be decided what you're going to spend the $7,000 on. Yeah, that is for the, whatever committee does that, or for you, ladies and gentlemen, to decide. But before we spend any of it, we have to budget it. And so we're just adding that grant to the original budget. And then you can decide how you wish to spend it, whenever you get around to it.
Okay, this item is, for approval, and it's only stating that the approval is for the $4,000.
No, ma'am, the approval is for the $7,000 amendment.
And the $7,000.
The
But
$4,000.
we don't have any documentation stating that they had gave it to us because you said you didn't know that we was gonna receive it.
I have a copy of the check in my office and the
Right.
grant, and the grant agreement. They're giving us an extra $7,000. That's what's being approved. The $4,000 has already been approved.
Right, on the 12th. Okay, I just didn't see any documentations in here. The $4,000 was already approved on the 12th, and then I seen the $7,000. Didn't really know what it was coming from because the way this is printed. And I think for clarification, so we would know a little bit more, then we should kind of put that in there as well. Have a document in here so I wouldn't have had to ask that for. But thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
You said the $10,200 was for the recreation center?
No, ma'am. That is for, a mural or whatever. We got some donations last year for the mural plus the Fayetteville Arts Council grant. We spent that money on the mural over here, over here, I forget the name of the building. Stitch in Time, the mural there. We had money left over from that grant and all of those donations, that the dentist, raised for us. So that plus the 4,000 grant and the money left over from last year, that's the 10,000 that we have already in the budget for this year. We're adding another 7,000 to it for this new grant.
So, and please forgive me if I'm asking something crazy, but, so the $10,000 came from donations, from the grant?
Grant and donations,
And
yes, ma'am.
donation. You don't break that down on the budget so you can see exactly how much came where and where it came from to add it up, or you just?
The
put it in
donations
one?
were in last year's budget, ma'am, not this year's. This is just the amount carried over. And then plus the 4,000 we've already received for this year. This grant, they wrote us a check for $5,600, out of this 7,000. They will pay us the remaining, $1,400 when whatever project you approve is completed.
I thought you said you had a check in your office for 7,000.
I have a check for 5,600. I have a check for 5,600.
Oh.
Okay, the grant agreement is 7, but they withhold the balance until the project is finished.
So on the budget then, and again, forgive me, why aren't the numbers broke down so we can actually see what is going where, how much is here, how much is there? Not to say we don't trust you or anything, but just saying, how come it's not broken down? I mean, I'm
Well,
sorry.
first off, you have not approved what you're gonna spend it on. So I don't know what you're gonna spend it on yet.
You don't have a breakdown of how it comes in?
It's a check, I just told you, it's a check for $5,600,
No,
and then
sir.
they give it another check for $1,400 when it's finished.
You also said donations too. I don't see the word donation on here. How much donation we received?
Because I'm not amending the donations. The donations were received in last year's budget, not this year's budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I asked questions. I'm sorry if I offended you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Overton.
Yes. Recommend that we approve the budget amendment, and then you can decide how we spend the money, to improve the looks of the town.
So now that we've had our questions answered, can we go ahead and approve the budget amendment?
I'm not approving.
We're just literally.
No, I'm saying, do that. Go ahead and do the motion. Yeah, go ahead and do the motion.
I just wanna make sure that you understand what we're doing.
Yes.
We got the money. This is just so that we can figure out what we're gonna do with it, so there isn't a breakdown yet. Cause all we got, every year, they give us the $4,000, they spontaneously increased it. And so we don't have, this is us pretty much just saying, yes, we're accepting the check from the Arts Council so that it can go into the budget. And then whenever we decide to spend it, that's when you can
Yeah,
break
but
it down.
the Arts Council gave you 4,000 already, and which was approved. We're talking about the monies now. He said it was in his office, the 7,000, but then he said it was only 5,000, and he was gonna wait on the 14,000.
That's because
So we
it's
can
a
make,
grant.
just make the motion.
So I'll entertain a motion now to approve budget amendment, BA 12, FY 2026. So moved. Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can't spend the money. It's just gonna sit
Not
in
at this
the
particular
account.
time.
Not at this particular time. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll revisit it.
We'll go on budget amendment 11. Or 10 on 11.
Yeah, we're gonna move
Yeah.
Yeah.
on to. We just voted down to not take the money so we can put it in our budget.
We just voted down not to take the money now. But we didn't say we wasn't going to take it. We said we have questions.
It's been
We
moved
have that right.
already.
Yeah,
It's
so
been
let's
moved
go.
already.
Whoa. Yeah,
It's been moved. We'll carry on.
Thank
we
you.
will carry on. All right,
Budget amendment number 10.
8C. Budget amendment BA 10 FY 2026, Mr. Overton.
Okay. ago, the towns, there was some property in between Spring Lake and Fayetteville that was annexed, including some streets. So Spring Lake and Fayetteville were entitled to get some additional power bill money because of those streets that were annexed several years ago. Under the interlocal agreement, the money goes to Fayetteville, but then they give us 30% of it, okay? So they've given us a power bill reimbursement of $94,000, okay, for this year. We did not know how much that was until Fayetteville gave us a check, okay? We have a backhoe in the street department, and I'm sorry, the backhoe is 24 years old. I'm sorry it says 10 years, I picked the wrong backhoe. It's a 24-year-old backhoe that's about worn out. We have an estimated price of about $136,000 to buy a new backhoe to replace that. And we want to use the power bill money we've got from the city of Fayetteville, plus some money we got from selling some old scrap material and selling some vehicles of $16,000, and take that money to buy a new backhoe. This backhoe is completely worn out. It's caused a lot of repairs, and it's 24 years old. So we're asking for your approval to spend this money to purchase a new backhoe.
I entertain a motion to approve budget amendment, VA10 FY 2026. Commissioner Cooper? Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Looking at the budget amendment, which again, not enough clarification on the document. It stated here, you clarified was a mistake for the 10 years. I have highlighted the repairs, it's $7,000 for the backhoe. I see on the budget amendment, 10, where it says power bill reimbursement, the $94,800. I go down to the budget amendment, and only thing that I can see with no clarification, I see the justification to appropriate the power bill for reimbursement from the city of Fayetteville and the proceeds from the capital access for the backhoe. And again, if you go down to the next line, it says this will replace the 2016 John Deere Black backhoe, which needs over $7,000. With me looking over this with no other numbers of you saying we can use the rest of it, which I don't know what the rest of it is, and it should have been documented for accountability purposes. I took the $94,000, took $7,000 away from it, and the rest of the monies that we can use would have been $87,800. I wouldn't have been asking the questions if I would have known instead of us just talking about the rest of the monies, and it says the rest of the monies on here as well. So that's a little confusing to me as well, besides you getting up just explaining it. Because when I was going through the documents of the budget and then looking at the amendment, you had the $7,000, which have no problem purchasing it, just trying to make sure the money is accounted for in a proper manner that we can understand and know what we're approving.
If you have a question.
That was the question and the concern.
Okay.
My question was the $7,000 here. I asked the question.
I missed it.
You missed it.
The
Well, if you
estimated,
look at the budget amendment, it's not talking about the rest of the money that he just talked about, which is the $87,800. He said he made a mistake with the years.
yeah,
But only thing that I have here that you want us to approve, it says the $7,000 here. And it says, request for action is approval. But it's not telling me anything about where the other monies is.
ma'am, I will do my best to answer your question. The $7,000 is the estimated cost to repair the old backhoe.
Exactly, that's what it says.
Okay, the old backhoe, okay? All right? The old backhoe, the correct one is 24 years old. That 2016 backhoe was a backhoe in another department. I apologize for that error, okay? money's coming from. $94,000 from the city of Fayetteville. We received $2,000 from selling some scrap material.
Right.
We sold 3 vehicles last month. We got $16,500 for the sale of those old vehicles. And alright, that comes to 94 and 16 is 110, plus 2 is 112. So I need 23,000 more from fund balance to make up the difference. Those numbers add to 137,000 of revenue, additional revenue that we received, plus fund balance appropriated of 23,000. That's 137. The estimated cost of the new backhoe is about 136,000. I rounded it up to the nearest thousand because I always round my budget amendments up so to make sure they're adequate. Okay, that is where the money is coming from those additional revenues and 23,000 from fund balance.
Okay. The 94,800. I don't have anything for how much that backhoe is gonna cost. I don't have any documents, so that's why I'm asking. Only thing I have is the 7,000, so that's what I had to go by when I was trying to figure this up. But then you just stated, but I don't have anything, that it's gonna, the backhoe is gonna cost how much?
About 136,000. I've got the exact quote in my office.
Once we decide what we're gonna do with the rest of the money, you say, it's up to us. But that was a recommendation.
The recommendation is to replace a 24-year, the recommendation is to replace a 24-year-old worn-out backhoe with a new one, using the money that we have received.
Commissioner Burgess?
What are we gonna do with the old backhoe?
My recommendation would be to declare it as surplus and get rid of it and sell it for whatever you can get for it.
That's typically what's done when we decommission a vehicle. We place it on gov deals and try and sell it. Are there any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? We are voting against taking money.
At this particular time, we are.
At what time do we take it then? This is.
Ma'am, I have a right to vote the way I feel like I
You
want to vote.
absolutely do.
And I'm not gonna have a discussion and a debate with you, and I don't think that's
This isn't a
appropriate.
discussion or debate.
I have a right to
I'm
vote.
making sure that the public is aware that right
Yeah, the
now.
public
we
can.
are-
We're gonna
I am
we're
speaking
gonna
to Mayor Pro
revisit it.
Tem.
Boy, you cut me off, and I don't know why you keep cutting
I
me
didn't,
off.
but I want to make sure the public is aware that we are
I do too.
now twice voting against
We are.
taking money that we have received already. We'll move on to our next agenda item,
My
which
license,
is
I'm sorry, my license.
Commissioner Jackson.
Just want the community to know that we are not voting to not take the money. We're voting because it's not specified on the documents.
That's right.
How the money is being spent. We've had problems with the money before with LGC and everybody else not knowing what's going on. And when you approve a budget amendment, you're just not approving numbers, you're approving where they're going. And since it's the town's money, we would like to know where it's going. So to rectify the problem is do the budget amendment over and put every dime where it's supposed to go, where it's supposed to go. That's all we're doing.
And we're gonna revisit it another time.
Yes.
We're not denying money.
You were recognized. Commissioner Cooper.
Thank you. So we decided that we would get the agenda a day earlier than normal. And in that time is when you should ask for additional documentation if you have questions. That is the reason why we get our agenda early, so that if we have questions or want more information, we can ask for it to be added to the agenda before we get to the meeting. So I would hope going forward, if there's documents that you want added, is that you ask that they be added so we can move forward with the business of the town. Because that's why we asked for the information early.
You want me to raise my hand?
You're like,
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. I understand that, because that's what I requested, so we can get it ahead of time. So no one is printing stuff to say that we said something that we didn't say. So I can concur with that. But at this particular time, Ms. Sutherland has made, I've already voted, not giving any money back, clarification, we can revisit. We've called special meetings, and no one wanted to show up for the special meeting.
We're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8C, budget amendment BA 11. Mr. Overton.
Number 11, okay. We have approximately 4,000 water and sewer customers within the town. I actually have about 4,500, but about 500 of those are inactive now because the apartments or homes are vacant. So we have about 4,000 meters. A water meter will last about 10 years. In order to replace water meters, we need to replace about 400 every year so that we can replace all 4,000 of them in a 10-year period before they wear out. As meters get old, they have sand and grit and silt that gets in the meter and slows the meter down, and it doesn't record accurately. We have a lot of old meters. We've already spent $225,000 this year replacing meters. I talked to Ms. Renee last week. We have 2 boxes of meters left. There's only 6 in each box, so we have 12 meters left to replace any broken or worn out meters. We're asking for a budget amendment of $160,000 to replace the additional 400 meters. So that the meters and the cost about 400 each times 400, that's 160,000. The revenue we'll use to pay for that, we increased the rates at for outside customers at Overhills. They were paying less than what our other outside rate customers were paying. We've increased their rates to the same as all the other outside customers. That's brought in an additional $124,000 revenue for this year. Bulk water, we also raised the rate for bulk water. They were paying less than what the town was buying the water from Fayetteville PWC. So we increased their rates. That's bringing in an additional $20,000 in revenue. Plus, we've had a few new customers hooked on water and sewer taps, 4,000 and 5,000. And we sold another vehicle in the water fund for $6,600. So we're taking that $160,000 of additional revenue and requesting that we use it to buy 400 and replace 400 old meters at a cost of about $400 each. And we only have a dozen meters left as of last week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Mr. Overton, for clarification for the citizens as well as a new board member, 400, how many new, when I served on the board prior, we started getting those new meters. I do believe we need new meters so they can be accurate and current since the water bill was so high. So how many new meters do we still need in the town of Spring Lake?
I don't know, have an accurate number. I don't know how many we've actually replaced in the last 2 years. We've replaced a couple routes. Rory has a more accurate number than I do.
I do have that spreadsheet out, Mayor Pro Tem, I do not have it available for me, so I can give you by percentage and years of service. I don't have it available for you tonight, but I'll be glad to share that with you.
Thank you. And for discussion, I like to be transparent and the citizens to know everything that we're doing. This document says for a request for just for information only. So the next time it's brought back, then we will know as well as the citizens will know. Is that for approval?
Is there any other discussion? I'll now entertain a motion to approve BA 11 FY 2026.
So
ending FY June 30th, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Mr. Overton.
Okay. All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to try to present to you our unaudited financial statements for fiscal years 21, 22, and 23. These statements are not audited. They were prepared by myself. I am a certified public accountant. I have been an auditor and government finance officer for 45 years. But I cannot audit my own work. I'm not allowed by standards to audit my own work, so that's why these are unaudited. Okay? Now, a lot of these slides are written in accounting jargon, which is a foreign language to most people. I will do my best to translate it into English. Okay. All right. Now, the status of our current audits. Our last audit was completed for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. It was completed on March 31st, 2021. It was due in October, so it was 5 months late. Okay. The Local Government Commission waived the requirement for an audit in 2021. The reason for that is the town's accounting records were in such poor shape that they were not able to be audited. So they basically said we're not going to require audit for that year. Okay. They awarded a contract to Cherry Beckert and Holland to complete the 22 audit. My last communication with Cherry Beckert, they said they would have the audit report maybe by the middle of this month. That's probably not going to happen. So hopefully we will have it by February 28th. A few months ago, we awarded a contract to audit 23, 4, and 5 to Carl Riggs and Ingram CPAs out of Goldsboro. They were low bid. We sent it out to 5 different CPA firms. We got 3 bids back. Carl Riggs and Ingram, it was the low bid, and they are well qualified. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to tell you now the types of opinions we make that you can get on an audit. Usually what you get is an unmodified or clean opinion. That means that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects, that there are no material errors in the financial statements. That is the opinion that you want. It's called a clean opinion. A modified opinion are financial statements that are fairly presented except for certain items that may not be correct. And an example of that is probably going to be Spring Lake property acquisitions, which I'll get into more detail later. An adverse opinion. An adverse opinion means the financial statements are not right, that there are material errors in the statements. So therefore the auditors are saying that these statements are not correct. A disclaimer of opinion. This is the reason we didn't have an audit requirement for 2021. The books were in such bad shape that they were not able to be audited. So the auditor can't form an opinion. So they disclaim an opinion. Okay. There is a misconception among the public that if financial statements are audited, that they are correct. That is not true, and it never has been. Okay? What the auditor is required to do is to study your internal control and make recommendations on improvement, and then audit your financial statements and make them as close as they can get them so that they are fairly presented, that they're not misleading. It doesn't mean they're correct. It means they're close to correct. Okay? The auditors, what they do is they do not test all transactions. They don't have time to test everything. So they test a sample of transactions and material account balances and confirm those, and then they test your internal control. They try to achieve, take a statistical sample to achieve an assurance rate of 95% that the account balances and the transactions are reported correctly. that means there's a possibility of 5% that they're incorrect. But they could, as long as they can get that 95% satisfaction, they can still give you a clean or unmodified opinion. So it's not accurate, but completely accurate, but it's very close. Okay. There's a thing called a component unit. We have one component unit, that is Spring Lake Property Acquisitions. There are two types of component units. A discretely presented component unit is a separate legal entity that is shown in a separate column from the primary government. It's not included in the government's total, it's in a separate column all to itself. In that case, the primary government may have some control, but not complete control over the component unit. They do have to have more than 50% control. And the primary government may provide some funding to the organization, but not all of the funding. They're not completely funded. Examples of that, the Cumberland County ABC Board. It is a component unit of the county, but the county appoints some of its board members, but it doesn't have complete control. Also, the county does not provide the revenue to the ABC Board. Their revenue comes from the sale of liquor. They're required to give that money back to the county, whatever profit they make after their expenses. Another example would be the Economic Development Commission. It is controlled somewhat by the county and somewhat by the city of Fayetteville, in that they receive money from each organization, and each organization appoints board members. But neither organization has complete control. A blended component unit, that is Spring Lake Property Acquisitions. In that case, the primary government, the town of Spring Lake, has complete control of the organization. They appoint all of the board members. Those officers were employees of the town. The Spring Lake Property Acquisition acted under the direction of the town, and its only source of revenue was contributions from the town. They had no funding of their own, so they were completely dependent upon the town. When they are completely dependent and controlled by the town, that's a blended component unit. To make that simpler, the primary government, the town, that's the parent. The blended component unit, that's the child. The discretely presented component unit, that's the stepchild, because it's controlled by you and the other parent. Okay. All right, before we could begin working on these financial statements for 21, 22, and 23, we had to make some significant corrections to fiscal year 20. These are called prior period adjustments. These are some of the corrections that we made. In the general fund, we actually increased the general fund by $272,000. We decreased all of the other funds by the prior period adjustments. And then there was one other prior period adjustment I discovered in 2022. What that was, in 2014, the town borrowed $1.5 million to make street repairs. And they spent that money in 2014. They had $120,000 left in a bank account. They closed that account in 2014 and transferred the money to the general fund. However, that transfer was not recorded in the street capital project fund for 7 years. Nobody recorded it, so that's a correction that had to be made. And you see the fund balance is restated. Other prior period adjustments, the town is exempt from sales tax. We have to pay sales tax. At the end of the year, we can get it back. During those years, the town did not file Form E85 with the Department of Revenue for 5 years to request a refund of the sales tax. Greg Isley and his employees filed those returns. However, they were 5 years back returns. The return, each form request for refund is due in December at the end of 6 months after the end of the year. However, the Department of Revenue will still give you the money up to 3 years late. But since they hadn't filed it in 5 years, 2 years, we did not get our sales tax refund for 2015 and 16. So we lost by not filing those returns at almost $93,000 in sales tax refunds. Okay? The previous auditor, like I said, they looked at some transactions, not all. There were a bunch of small miscellaneous accounts receivable that had not been updated in several years. Some hadn't been updated since 2014. One of those old receivables, the wastewater treatment plant used to accept septic tank waste from the companies that pump out septic tanks. They discontinued that service in January of 2021. We had 13,000 of accounts receivable from those septic tank haulers still on the books. It's still there now. Well, it's not now because we wrote it off, because we'll never collect that. It's 5 years old. Okay? Let's see. The taxes receivable that were collected by the county in June and then remitted to us in July were also not recorded in 21. Accrued salaries, that's the salaries we owe at the end of the year for the days from the last payroll to the end of the month. They had not been updated since 2018, so they were 2 years behind. We had several capital project funds, capital projects that had been completed and finished, but the assets that were built were still in construction in progress. They had not been transferred to fixed assets. No depreciation had been calculated on it. And so we had to transfer that and calculate that depreciation. That was several $100,000 adjustment. A few years ago, the Department of Transportation widened Fort Bragg. In order to do that, they relocated the town's water and sewer lines along Fort Bragg Boulevard. Okay, at a cost of $633,000. The town had to reimburse them over a period of 3 years. We had to pay them $211,000 each year for 3 years, ending in 21. That was the last payment. The water lines were not recorded. The debt was not recorded. The depreciation on the water lines were not recorded. And the $200,000 payment that we made each year was posted to repairs and maintenance instead of debt service on the note, which hadn't been recorded. That was another adjustment. In fiscal year 2023, they did not file a solid waste materials management report, which is due every year. It's a report to the Department of Environmental Quality of the amount of garbage tonnage that you collected and put in the landfill. That's due every year. If you don't file the report, then you don't get your solid waste tax next year. So we lost $9,000 by not filing that report. Okay? And then I already mentioned the $120,000 in 22 that was still sitting on the books that had been transferred 6 years earlier. Also in 21, if you look on page 60 and 61 of your 21 report, you had 3 funds with deficit fund balance. And you don't have that report in front of you. You don't have it right now because it's a huge 200-page report. But we had 3 funds. We had 3 funds in fiscal year 21 that had deficit fund balances. The Spring Fling Fund had a negative $3,951. The Recreation Capital Project that had been completed had a negative $114,000. A Water and Sewer Capital Project that had also been completed had a negative $543,000. General statutes require that in next year's budget, you appropriate money to eliminate any funds with deficit balance. That was not done until 2023. Okay? And there are prior period adjustments for the water and for the governmental activities and business activities. I'll get to that in a minute. You can see a whole list of all these prior period adjustments on pages 99 and 100 of the 2021 statements. Okay. Governmental activities. Governmental activities include the General Fund, the Spring Lake Property Acquisition Fund, the American Rescue Plan Grant, and all of our little non-major funds. They're all included and combined into what's called governmental activities in Exhibit 1 of your financial statements. if you look and see at 2021, your net position or your fund balance or your deficit was 1.5 million in the hole. Now, the problem is that's the total fund balance or deficit was 1.5 million. That includes your investment in capital assets. Investment in capital assets is the value or cost of your land, building, equipment minus the depreciation and the debt. That's 2.8 million. That 2.8 million is the value of equipment and buildings. It's not cash. You can't spend it. So when you take that out, that reduces your cash. Also, we had 2.8 million of restricted money. Restricted money is your accounts receivables reserved by state statute. You cannot spend that until you actually collect it. So that's restricted. You also have restrictions for power bill. Your power bill money can be spent, but can only be spent on street repairs. It can't be spent on anything else. We had grant money from the county to pay the debt service on the fire station. That's also restricted. It has to be spent on the debt for the fire station. And we had, the USDA requires you to put in a savings account an amount equal to 1 year's payment on your debt owed to U.S. Department of Agriculture. So that's the 2.8 billion restricted. When you take those two out, your unrestricted fund balance, the amount you can spend any way you choose in 2021, was $7,261,000 in the hole. That was your cash deficit of money that you can spend any way you want. You see again, it was 7.2 million in 22. It's reduced to 4.7 million in 23. You see, finally in 23, the total fund balance is finally positive at 2.7 million. All right, this is your income statement for your governmental activities. In 2020, the town had a net loss in the middle of the page of 1.6 million. Just so you know, any numbers in here that are in brackets or in red, they're bad. Okay? In 2021, the town had a loss of $1 million. In 22, under the control of the LGC, they cut expenses drastically and turned it around. We had a profit of $926,000. In 2023, our net income was $3.4 million. But there was one exception here. If you look at the grant, the line item grants, you will see in 2023, it was $4.5 million. That's way up from the previous years because that is the year we received the American Rescue Plan grant from the U.S. Treasury of $3.8 million. Had we not received that $3.8 million grant in 23, that loss would have been $300,000 negative instead of $3.4 million to the good. All right, your business activities. These are the services that you charge customers for, that they pay a fee. That includes the water and sewer fund, the sanitation fund, and the stormwater fund. This is all of those funds combined. Okay? And you see there, the business activities are in a lot better shape. The net position in 20 was $7,975. It improved to $11,000 over the 3-year period, to $11,084. Okay? However, this is your income statement for your business activities. You had a net loss in 2020 of $216,000, $172,000 in 21. Because they increased the rates when the local government commission took over and they cut some expenses, income increased to $1.2 million in 2022. In 2023, our net income was just a little over $2 million. But also look at the line item interfund transfers. In all the other years, the water and sewer and sanitation stormwater were transferring money to the general fund to cover their share of overhead. In this year, they got $1.4 million transferred to the water, sewer, and sanitation and stormwater fund from the American Rescue Plan. So that's a $1 That American Rescue Plan is a one-time grant. You only get it once, we'll never get it again. So that is why 2023 looks so much better, that one-time grant that we won't receive again. Here's your general fund by itself. You see the fund balance in the general fund in 2020 was $631,000. However, there was $1,037,000 restricted by state statute. That was your accounts receivable at June 30th, 2020. Also at that time, $265,000 was restricted. That was your unspent power bill funds. Okay. All right. Now, at that time, in 2021, your total fund balance was $607,000, but your unassigned fund balance, that is the amount that you can spend however you choose. That is entirely up to you how you spend it. Was $1.5 million in the hole. $1,489,000. You had $1,367,000 restricted by state statute, your receivables. $500,000 power bill funds that had not been spent, and $200,000 restricted for debt service for the USDA loan and the fire station loan. Also in 2021, the actual cash in the general fund at that time was $225. That was the petty cash drawer in Renee's water and sewer department that they used to make change for customers. That's all the cash you had in the general fund, was $225. Now if you look on, okay, also at that time, if you look on page 28 of your article, of your financial statements at that time, it shows cash, restricted cash in the general fund, $726,000. Well, the problem is, the general fund didn't actually have that cash. The general fund had to borrow $1 million from the water fund to pay its bills. So the only cash they had available was the $225,000 cash. We had to show an interfund loan of $1,087,000 to take care of the restricted cash and the other expenses in the general fund. In 2022, that unassigned fund balance was only $642 in the hole, and then due to the American Rescue Plan grant in 23, it's finally positive at $1,156,000. All right. Okay, this slide shows at the end of 23 your fund balance in the general fund. Restricted by state statute, your accounts receivable. You can't spend that because you haven't collected. That was 36% of your total fund balance. Your restricted fund balance, that's the power bill and debt service money that can't be used for anything else, was 30% of the total. To balance the 2024 budget, the town appropriated fund balance of $414,000. That's 9% of your fund balance. And that left 25%, or $1,156,000, that you could spend however you choose. Okay? This is your general fund statement of revenues and expenses. The general fund had a net loss of $1.1 million in 2020. It had a net loss of $297,000 in 21. It had a profit in 2022 of $1,603,000. And the reason for that, look at the expenditures line. The second line was over $8 million in 20 and 21. When the LGC took over, they stopped spending and they cut it down to $5.6 million. So that's the reason the net income went up, because they cut out a bunch of spending. It was back up to $7 million spending in 23. You had a net income of $2,374,000. But again, that transfer in of $3 million, that's the money from the American Rescue Plan that was transferred in, plus the money from the other funds for overhead. Remember I told you you had a bunch of capital project funds that had deficit balances in 21. In 23, the general fund had to transfer out $1 million to cover those three funds that had a deficit. So those were one-time transfers. We won't get the American Rescue Plan money again. Hopefully we won't have to transfer out money to cover deficits again. Okay, your general fund revenue. Okay. The numbers here are a little small, but what you see is the dark blue, that's your property tax. That's 40% of your total revenue. The gray, your state shared revenues, that's the money we receive from the Department of Revenue. Your sales tax, franchise tax, your beer and wine tax. That's 3.6 million or 46% of your revenue. In most towns, property tax is your number one revenue. Sales tax and franchise tax are usually your second largest revenue. But due to the fact that we have a low average home value in Spring Lake, property taxes is our second largest revenue rather than our largest for this year. Next year, that's going to be really different because Cumberland County has switched us from distributing sales tax on population, where we get 2% of the county sales tax, to ad valorem. Because our property values are lower, we only get 1%. So that sales tax revenue is going to be cut in half next year. Well, it's going to be about 54% of what it was in 25. So instead of being 3.6 million, it's probably going to be 1.7 or 1.8, something like that. So that's a huge loss of revenue. Next year, property taxes will be your largest source of revenue. We also receive federal and state grants of 8% of our revenue, and all other revenues combined were only 6%. Our expenses in the general fund. Public safety, which is police, fire, and inspections, amounts to 65% of our total expenses. Okay. General government. This includes the governing body, administration, finance, human resources, information technology, and public buildings, and legal expenses. That amounts to 14% of our expenses. Debt service, the payment on our debt in the general fund, is 8% of our expenses. Transportation is 11%. That's the streets and the power bill money. And then Parks and Rec is only 2%. This is for 23. The reason it's only 2%, 23 was the year that we turned over Parks and Rec to Fayetteville and Cumberland County. So our expenses for Parks and Rec went way down that year. Economic development that year, that's planning and zoning. We only spent $28,000, so that's close to 0% or less than 1% of our budget. Okay. Next thing, property. This is a schedule of your property tax values and collections for the last 4 years. In the first 3 years, your property tax rate was 70 cents. In 2023, it dropped to 65 cents. That's the year that we gave Parks and Rec to Cumberland, Fayetteville County, Cumberland and the city of Fayetteville. We reduced the property tax rate by 5 cents, but Cumberland County added a 5-cent recreation tax. So our citizens are still paying 70 cents, but 5 cents is going to Cumberland County and Fayetteville instead of us, and they're managing our Parks and Rec. The only thing left in Parks and Rec now is the payment on the rec building, $131,000 a year, and the grant that we received from the Arts Council. Okay. Cumberland County collects our taxes for us, and they do a very good job of collecting taxes. They're kind of slow paying us for it, but they do a good job of collecting. Their collection percentage each year is 98 or 99%. So they collect just about all the property taxes. For the current year, as of December, they've only collected 75% of this year's property tax levy. Have not received the property tax collection for January yet. So hopefully it'll be up around 90% when we receive January's revenue. but again, it's 99% a year. Taxes receivable. General statutes allow you to collect taxes for 10 years. After 10 years, you have a statute of limitations. You cannot collect the taxes anymore. Okay? You can't force anybody to pay it after 10 years. Usually, the most recent 3 years, you will collect most of those. Anything that's outstanding 4 or more years, you probably will never see. So that's why we have an allowance for bad debts. You see in the current year, $47,943. That's the 7 oldest years of taxes receivable. The net taxes receivable of $47,000, that's the most recent 3 years. So, and 1 cent of property tax equals only $46,000. So if you raise property taxes by a penny, you only get an additional $46,000 of revenue. If you cut property taxes by a penny, your revenue only goes down $46,000. The last thing I want you to notice is the first line, the assessed property value. $457 million in 20 and $466 million in 23. That's an increase in 3 years of less than 2%. What that means is the town is not growing. We're not adding new homes, we're not adding new property value, and therefore that makes the burden on the existing property owners greater because we don't have the growth to support new expenditures. Okay. This is your revenue for the water and sewer fund. You see the third line down, operating loss. This is operating revenues. That's the money you charge your water and sewer customers. The expenses, that's the expenses directly associated with providing water and sewers. Operating loss in 2020 was almost $600,000. That means your revenues were short of your expenses by $600,000. In 21, it was only short by $17,000. Because of rate increases, we did have an operating income of $594 in 22 and $218 in 23. You see the total loss was after other expenses and grants. You had a net loss in 20 and 21. Okay, and you see that transfer in of $1,112,000. That's the American Rescue Plan money, one time only. We'll never get it again. So without that, we would not have had $1.3 million income that year. Sanitation fund. You see it also has a loss in 20 and 21 of $77,000 and $90,000. Has an income of $127,000 in 22 and $340,000 in 23. Again, the transfer in is the American Rescue Plan money. Our sanitation fee is $396 a year or $33 a month. That's what we charge our customers. That includes the $1 fee for litter control. Stormwater fund, it's a little better. It only had a loss in 2020 of $34,500. It has a net profit of $45 in 21 and $267 in 22 and $356 in 23. Again, a one-time transfer from the American Rescue Plan of $188,000. Power bill. Power bill funds are the gas tax that is collected every time you buy gas by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. They distribute that money back to the towns based on the miles of streets you have and your population. Okay? That money can only be spent on street and sidewalk repairs, snow removal, and other street expenses. Cannot be spent on anything else. Okay, you see our power bill ending fund balance in 21 was $500,000, $800,000 in 22, $953,000 in 23, and $1,165,000 in 24. Why is the power bill fund balance going up every year? It's very simple. Power bill allocation is $200,000 or $300,000 every year we receive from the Department of Transportation. In 2023, the town spent $158,000 to buy a backup. Okay? In '24, the town spent $134,000 of power bill money to pay the debt service on the street bonds that were borrowed in 2014. That debt payment was $150,000 a year, but only $134,000 was allocated to power bill. You see the line highlighted in red in the middle? The only money spent on street maintenance in '23 and '24 was $8,575 out of $1,165,000. When I first got here last year, 3rd Street behind Zaxby's was just one giant pothole. I got dirt paths on my farm that were in better shape than Hedgemore Drive, but yet we spent nothing on street repairs in 4 years, and we have $1,065,000 that can't be spent on anything else. Now, the other problem with power bill, these numbers come from your power bill expenditure report. Every one of those reports from 21, 22, and 23 are wrong. Those were done by your previous finance officers and previous CPAs, and they're all wrong. The reason they're wrong, you see there's no interest income for power bill in the first 3 years. State statute requires that you allocate interest income to all funds that have money in the savings account. No money was allocated to power bill for 3 years, and it should have been. I did the 24, and I put $300,000 to $22,000 interest income in there. Also, remember I told you we had an interlocal agreement with the city of Fayetteville for streets that they annexed that we could have, and they give us 30% of the money each year. That's the amount of money we receive from Fayetteville each year at the bottom line. None of that was put on the power bill report. I expect that if power bill money sent to Fayetteville is restricted just like it is to us, and that should have been on the power bill report each year. It was not. So, however, we did not go back and amend these for the reason this. The other thing that's not on here for the other 3 years is the debt service payment on the street bonds. So that money we got from Fayetteville was used, part of it, to pay those street bonds. So that money was spent on the streets, it just wasn't put on the report like it should have been. Right now, as of June 30th, 25, your power bill balance was $1,272,000. In 25, we issued a contract to Highland Paving for $859,000. So far, we have paid them $409,000. They have resurfaced 3rd Street. There are no potholes there except that one that they got marked off. They have repaired the storm water and resurfaced Hedgemore Drive and several other streets that were vastly in need of improvement. We still have about $400,000 left on that contract. They cannot pour asphalt when temperatures are below freezing. So they hopefully will start back in March when it warms up and have that contract finished by June 30th. One other caution. Power bill money. You cannot accumulate more than 5 years worth of power bill money. If you have more than 5 years that you didn't spend, they won't send you your power bill money next year. As of today, we have $1.6 million in the power bill fund. That is in excess of 5 years. So we need to spend that money before June 30th, or we won't get any power bill money next year. Okay, I've talked to you several times about the American Rescue Plan grant. It's a one-time grant we received in 22 and 23 for $3.8 million. It earned $111,000 in interest for a total of $3.9, and this is the amounts that were transferred to each fund to help pay for salaries and benefits. This money was originally intended to be spent on water and sewer improvements, but the LGC said let's spend it all on salary and benefits. That was another allowable expense. You won't have this money to pay salary and benefits going forward. All right, we're getting near the end. Pension and retiree health insurance. We have 2 pension funds and retiree health insurance for some of our older employees. The North Carolina Local Government Employees Retirement System, we're required to contribute 14.4% of payroll for all our full-time employees to this pension plan. The employees pay 6%. Law enforcement officers, we're required to pay 16.8%. The local government has increased this by 0.75 and 1% every year for the last 5 or 6 years. Our contribution used to be 7 and 8%. They've raised it to 14 and 16. Well, they just sent out an email yesterday, or Friday, they're raising it again next year by another 7.75% for general employees and another 1% for law enforcement officers. So next year, it's going to be 15 and 17% instead of 14 and 16. That will cost us an additional $30,000 to $35,000 in retirement contributions next year. Now, you see the liability of $2.4 million. That is our share of the state's liability. We will never have to pay that liability. That is the state's liability, it's not the town's. All the town is required to do is pay the 14 and 16% payroll contribution each year. The state pays the retirement benefits to retirees. But we are required by accounting principles to show our share of the state's liability, even though we don't have to pay it. So our share is $2.5 million. That's a liability, like I said, that you'll never have to pay, but your annual contributions keep going up. Now the other two we do have to pay. The Law Enforcement Officer Special Separation Allowance is a retirement plan exclusively for police officers. They get a check each month equal to a percentage of their final salary from the time they retire until their 62nd birthday. Right now, we only have one employee that is currently receiving that benefit. Last year we had two. One was your former police chief, but he reached age 62 a few months ago. So right now we only have one. But our estimated liability in the future to pay the officers that aren't eligible yet is $387,000. OPEB, that's other post-employment benefits. That's your retiree health insurance. Our estimated liability for that, according to our actuaries, is $4.5 million. We have no money set aside for that. All we do is we pay the premiums for those retirees as they come due. Okay. All right. This is a list of our outstanding debt. In 2023, our total outstanding debt was $9.6 million. Okay. All right. The BD&T street bonds, that balance of $150,000, that was paid off in full in 2024, so that debt is gone. The other one, the Enterprise police cars, $109,000. That was the first 15 police cars. We paid those off this year, and we purchased those police cars for about $1,500 each, next to nothing. But they are 6 or 7 years old, and they are in need of maintenance. We had budgeted to replace them, but the LGC will not approve a loan, so we can buy some more. We're hoping when the audit reports are done that we can replace those police cars. The rest of the debts, the USDA debt on the rec center, we have 21 years left on that payment, $130,000 a year. Okay. The USDA debt on the water and sewer, we also have till 2047 or 21 years to pay that off. The fire trucks, we bought 2 fire trucks in 2022 or 23. There's 7 years left on that. The loans from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for water and sewer improvements, they will be paid off in 4 years, 8 years, and 9 years. The 3 different loans there. The garbage truck, we paid that off in 2021. And the loan that I mentioned that wasn't recorded of $2,011 each year for 3 years, that was paid off in 2020. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got debt payments going out 21 years and 14 more years on the Manchester Fire Station. We're not going to get out of debt anytime soon. So we're gonna have these debt service payments for many more years, and we've got to borrow more to replace equipment and repair water and sewer lines. Now, we're going to get to the reasons that I told you that we probably won't get a clean opinion. If I was your auditor, I wouldn't give you a clean opinion for this reason, Spring Lake property acquisitions. So first, let me give you, just for those that are new, a little history. In 2019, the town purchased option on about 18 different tracts of land for $48,000. In April of 2019, in July, the town actually bought 2 parcels of land for $287,000. The plan was to get a loan from BB&T to buy this property. These 2 pieces of property were purchased before the loan closed. So the town paid for these. These 2 pieces of property are in the name of the town. Okay, in August 22nd, they actually closed on the loan and borrowed $3.5 million from BB&T. Then for the next 2 years, they purchased 18 tracts of land, or a total of 166 acres, for $3,000. So the total real estate owned by Spring Lake Property Acquisitions and the town comes to $3.4 million, including $14,000 of bank closing fees. Okay, the town paid the interest on this loan for about a year and a half. Then the LGC took over and said, you didn't get our approval for this loan. So they stopped the payments on the loan. So on August 22nd, when the first principal payment was due, Spring Lake Property Acquisitions defaulted on the loan. In December of that year, BB&T took the $360,000 left in the escrow account. That was supposed to be used to pay back the town for the first 2 pieces of property we bought. The BB&T took the money and applied it to the loan because we didn't make the payment. Okay? Then 4 years go by and the town pays nothing on this loan. We defaulted on all 4 principal payments. So on August 28th, Mr. Rory negotiated a settlement with Spring Lake, with Truist, who took over BB&T. And we purchased this note receivable with a current balance of $3.4 million for only $450,000, saving the town and Spring Lake Property Acquisitions $2.9 million. That's the debt that Truist Bank wrote off that we don't have to pay them. Okay? Then on September 19th, one of the 2 tracts that was in the town's name, we sold it for $75,000. Okay, and we used that money. We also didn't pay the property taxes or the sanitation fees on any of this property for 6 years. We took that $75,000 and paid off 6 years of back taxes and solid waste fees. So those are paid in full as of October of this year. Okay. Now, originally, for the land options and the original 2 pieces of land, Spring Lake Property Acquisitions owes the town $337,000. Plus, we bought the note for $450,000 this year. And we paid off the property taxes for about $50,000. That's a total that Spring Lake Property Acquisition owes the town of $836,000. Minus the $7,500 that we got from the $75,000 we got from the sale of the land. And $2,000 of that went to pay the lawyer to handle the sale. So as of right now, Spring Lake Property Acquisitions owes the town $763,000. Okay? Now, the Local Government Commission and Greg Isley's CPA firm, that original loan was $337,000. They wrote it off as a bad debt because Spring Lake Property Acquisitions had no money. They had no source of income. We put it back on the books because we hope to eventually sell the land and at least recover some of that money. So I don't want to write it off as a bad debt yet. Okay? Now, Spring Lake Property Acquisitions, all of the land there is an impaired asset. And what do I mean by that? It is not worth what we paid for it. The reason for it, the LGC decided since they didn't approve the loans, that Spring Lake Property Acquisitions is a separate entity. They said it's not part of the town. And so they just basically chose to just forget about it, just pretend that it never happened. So they neglected it under the 2 or 3 years that they were in control of the town. And the result is this. All of that 160 acres of land became an illegal trash dump. And here are the piles of trash, just some of them, 2 boats left there. 3 boats, okay? Another pile of trash, okay? On December the 22nd, 2022, not only did they dump trash on this land, they let all the houses on this land deteriorate to nothing. No repairs done, no upkeep, squatters moved in, the houses became dilapidated. On December 22, windows broken out, roofs caving in, they're in terrible shape. So, Cumberland County Planning Department, this is their sign where they said, we're condemning every piece of every house on this land is now condemned. Now, they also assessed a penalty on each house of $250 a day per house for violations of the minimum housing code. That's from December 22nd till now. That's 1,153 days times 15 houses times $250 a day equals $4.3 million in outstanding fees owed to the county. These are some of the, that's one dilapidated house. There's one of the dilapidated trailers. There's another. So, now they've made no effort to collect that, and I don't think they will, but technically there's $4.3 million of fees out there for violation of minimum housing code. What are we going to do about it? All right, now, impaired asset. This is the original cost of the buildings, $1.7 million. The land cost $1.7 million. That's your total of $3.4. Depreciation from 2019 to 2023, $386. So the book value of the land is now $3,055,000. The land is recorded and the buildings in these financial statements at its historical cost minus depreciation. General statutes require, generally accepted accounting principles require that you write an impaired asset down to its fair market value. Now, I am not a real estate appraiser, neither are the auditors. Neither one of us are certified to tell you what this land is worth. But the tax value on it is $3.5 million as of the latest revaluation, because they raised the property value of everything in Cumberland County by about 60%. The cost was $3.4 million. The appraised value is $3.5. What is the fair market value of a condemned house that you can't live in because it doesn't meet minimum housing code? $0. It's actually less than $0 because I got to pay somebody to tear it down. So I don't know how much that's going to cost. What's the fair market value of land that's an illegal trash dump? I don't know, but I would guess that it's somewhere less than $3.4 million. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, thanks to Commissioner Lackman, and you owe him a big debt of gratitude for organizing this. The town employees, some soldier volunteers from Fort Bragg and other volunteers from the community spent several Saturdays out there cleaning up this property. We got bids of $800,000 to have a contractor do it. We did it with volunteers and town employees for way less than that, and they picked up over 100,000 pounds of trash off of this 160 acres. We've hired an attorney that foreclosed on that note that we bought from Truist Bank. He's currently working on doing the title searches. I wish he'd work a little bit faster. But anyway, we're hoping he'll get that done soon. Then once we get all of this property transferred to the town's name, then we can demolish the buildings. Don't know how much that's going to cost. And then we can sell the land and hopefully recover some of that or maybe all or some of that $763,000 instead of writing it all off. But, you owe a big debt of gratitude to Commissioner Lackman, the employees and the volunteers, and to Mr. Rory for negotiating, saving us $3 million that Truist forgave on that loan. Okay, now I'm getting to the end. In 2021, at the end of the financial statements is your compliance reports. Compliance reports are a report on your internal control. Well, I will tell you, and it lists your material weaknesses or the things that need improving in your internal control. In 2021, there was no internal control. It was completely non-existent. Okay? These are the deficiencies that they found. Segregation of duties. That means one person isn't supposed to be responsible for everything. You're supposed to divide up the duties between different employees so there's some checks and balances. Everything was done by the finance director and not done correctly. Expenditures over budget. On page 61 of your report, you will see a list of expenditures over budget. The total on that page is $1.5 million spent over and above the budget. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 2021 budget. It is over 400 pages long. So somebody went to a great deal of effort to prepare this budget document. And you know what they did with it? They set it on a shelf and they never looked at it again. So that was a huge effort wasted because they never looked at it again. And then they went over budget in almost every department. Bank recs were not done. If the bank recs had been done, it would have caught the $567,000 that was embezzled by Ms. Tucker. I didn't mention that anywhere else in here because that happened in a previous year. But bank recs hadn't been done for years. They're supposed to be done every month. Pre-audit process. When you spend money, your state statute requires you to look at your budget and see if you got any money left to buy. That was not done. Credit card receipts not turned in. Invoices not paid on a timely basis. We had vendors when I first got here that said we will not do business with the town because we don't get paid on time. We still have vendors that don't want to do business with us because of that. The invoices not paid on time. Fayetteville Public Works, one of our biggest vendors, in the 3 years they were paid late 12 times. It's not $25 late fee like we charge our customers, it's $2,500. Cost the town $30,000 in late fees for simply not paying for Fayetteville Public Works on time. Okay? We also had state and local government retirement benefits a few times that were paid late. Cost the town another $4,000. Material journal entries were not made. Year-end entries weren't made because the finance director at that time didn't know how to do them. So the auditors had to do them all. Audit reports not filed. Well, we're still 4 years behind. Hopefully we'll be caught up in the next few months. And a cell phone allowance was paid to the economic development director, $10,000. It's supposed to be $100 a month. And he got a check for $10,000 and claims he didn't notice it. He lied. If bank recs had been done, that would have been caught too. So,
You paid that one back.
okay. Now, one thing I mentioned, Ms. Tucker, in previous years, embezzled, according to the state auditor, over $567,000. In 2023, we did receive a check from the insurance company to reimburse us that. However, that was only $135,000. So that still leaves you $400,000 in the hole. Okay. That is the end of my presentation. I'm sorry I took so long, but you need to know where we stand and where we come from. In conclusion, I want to say a couple things. This report was bad, but it is getting better. You can see the improvement each year. A lot of that improvement was due to LGC. A lot of these prior period adjustments were found by Greg Isley and his employees. They found some of them, I found some of them. They didn't find them all. But the town also spent $1.8 million to have Greg Isley's firm fix the books. And they did a good job, but they didn't fix everything. They fixed some of it. But it cost you $1.8 million over about a year and a half for them to do it. Now, Spring Lake property acquisitions, you know, they chose to just ignore it. We got mail that just got thrown in a box. Just pretending it doesn't exist is not a solution. It's actually irresponsible and lazy. We cannot leave a trash dump for our children and grandchildren to clean up. We've got to fix this problem. And it is a blended component unit because at the time it was in force, it was controlled by the board. Now, going forward, I hope to have the 24 statement done by the end of this month. Then we'll start with 25. I hope to have all the audits completed by June 30th of 26. That depends on if the auditors can get here, but we're starting the middle of tax season. So I can't promise that because they may be busy doing tax returns. But our audit report for 26 is due in December, and we're going to have that one done on time. I hope so. And we're also, I plan to submit the 26 audit to the Government Finance Officers Association to get a certificate of excellence for achievement in financial reporting. We need to get this bad reputation of finances off the town's back. So that would go a long way into accomplishing that. And ladies and gentlemen, the last thing I will say is that citizens of this town deserve better than what I just presented to you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wow, that was exactly what we needed to hear, an overview of what this town has gone through for the past several years. I can't imagine how hard that work was. Again, as you stated, the LGC said our 2021 audit was inauditable, and thank you, Mr. Overton, for taking the time to go through and get us ending balances so that we can properly move forward on solid footing. Again, just thank you, thank the staff. A major highlight to Commissioner Lackman. As you've seen, that he was adamant every meeting he came up here to tell us how much trash was picked up, and that number steadily increased every time. So again, thank you to everyone who volunteered with you. And good catch, Mr. Rory, that $3.5 million deficit turned into only $450,000. That in itself is huge. So again, is there any other questions or comments from the board? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Golden. I think we've been through that. We called the state LGC, and to my understanding, they gave the power back to the town of Spring Lake. It's an overview with the LGC. They was on it as well, talking about those dollar amounts, bringing it back up to date for a reminder for people to understand where we are. That's why we did not approve those budget amendments, so we can understand for future reference when I called them years ago for the budget, as well as Ms. Cooper was serving on this board as well. So as we continue to go forward, we're going to be adamant about our dollar amount. Taxpayer here, town of Spring Lake, for many years. And we want to make sure we look out for your tax dollars and make sure for accountability purposes. And I want to thank those neighbors in the neighborhoods that continue to clean up their trash in their community. And as dumps and trash has been dumped in those areas, Sheriff Enos and Cumberland County put that out there, then our officers, or if it's not in the county, I'm not sure where that area is. I think it's over there off of Grog Street.
No, it's Manchester.
Manchester Road, yes. Off Manchester Road. Oh, farther down. where we had that big water leak one time, and I know exactly where it is, where that land was purchased. But anyway, thank you, going forward, as a new board member, my colleagues, we will always want to understand where our tax dollars is going. He stated, and then I think, January the 12th, I was surprised to know that the recreation center has been taken over and the town of Spring Lake was not receiving anything. The lease of 131,249 went out, and hopefully we'll get some information about that soon, because at that particular time at that meeting, it was just a request for action to send that out. So anyway, we're going forward, so thank you so much for the update. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Cooper.
I do want to point out that we are still on the unit assistance list with the LGC. We get to make decisions, but they're still watching us closely. We have to be mindful that what decisions we make could determine whether or not they come back in here. So we just need to be mindful of that. We are not in the clear. And that's all.
All right, we'll now move on to agenda item 8E. Our asset inventory assessment, Mr. Rory. And I do want to state that there was a very detailed meeting held to deliver the results of our AIA and MRF led by Mr. Rory and our engineering staff. So that was not recorded, but it was available for detailed information. So we will probably move through this a bit more briefly, seeing as the information was already put out. Mr. Rory?
That is my goal, is to be as brief as possible. This is nothing more than more bad news. And so after listening to the financial statements and recognizing where we're at, forgive me if I read the cover sheet for the agenda so that everybody is aware at least where we're coming from. And so in the summary description on our cover sheet, it says that the town of Spring Lake is currently on the local government commission unit assistance list. The town was awarded a $250,000 grant to evaluate the overall conditions of its water and sewer infrastructure and to identify capital planning needs. The AIA provides a clear assessment of the system conditions and outlines the financial realities and constraints the community faces in maintaining a functional and sustainable water and sewer system. So the question has to be asked, why did someone give us a $250,000 grant to assess the condition of our water and sewer system? That has to be asked, and it has to be thought of as we move forward. So tonight, I'm going to give you a brief overview regarding the assessment, asset inventory assessment. There are two components of it, and I'm also going to do a brief overview of what we refer to as the system development needs analysis. All total, the water portion is about 70-some pages. The sewer portion is another 80-some pages, so we're about 181 pages of documents, and my numbers are going to be off, so they're not absolute. But I think it's worth recognizing that there's a lot of information, and I'm going to condense it down to just a couple of highlights. It is my intent to, instead of reviewing both water and sewer, I'm going to do the water, I'm going to skip the sewer. Both of these reports will be loaded onto our website for public review tomorrow. They are still draft reports, but there have been some modifications since we have the draft reports. The reports have been reviewed by DEQ at the state level and have been kind of confirmed that they meet the scope requirements of the grant. So therefore, they are considered to be official. Just a few modifications that we need to go forward. 1,000 words. 1,000 words. That's all you got to do. Old pipes, 70 years, 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, a system of, in a very difficult poor state of repair and maintenance, and it causes us problems every day. So you gotta look at it. In the water report, there are high priority projects listed. One, and first and foremost, is a valve isolation project, so that we can go throughout the community and isolate how we're going to cut the water off. Right now, we have to hunt valves, and there are some places where valves don't exist, or the valve location was buried with the Public Works Director from 20 years ago. We just don't know where they're at, and so we're having to deal with this. And so we budgeted in this AIA basically a $250,000 project. This is really a low-hanging fruit project, and this budget has already been budgeted in our current budget to do this valve isolation project throughout the city. And it highlights just one location there. You'll see that all the colors, basically that's all the different zones. And that one location is Deerfield, and includes the one valve big enough to isolate Deerfield and cut it off. A water line replacement project, Odell Road. I know there are folks that are constantly emailing us about the water leaks along the Odell Road corridor, all right, which also includes everything from some of the Mac Street and the areas of Goodyear, Regina. You'll hear us talk about those, but think about this as the Odell Road corridor. You'll see that the current probable opinion of probable cost for that one project, $4.4 million. Stay with me. One project for water line replacement, $4.4 million. I'm not going to be talking about the sewer line project for another $3-4 million. I'm just going to focus on the water project right now. Opinion of probable cost. You'll see to the right picture, to include Goodyear, Regina, some of those areas up in there, water line replacements. Right now, if you funded it this year, it would be $4.4 million. If you wait a year and defer the funding for that, it's obviously going to go up because we face the same inflationary pressures as everybody else does. Construction cost goes up. If you wait 10 years, it goes from $4.4 million to the opinion of probable cost of $6.2 million. What I chose to show down here was just some simple loan documents. If we borrowed that $4.4 million and did it right now, and did it over a 10-year period with an interest rate of 3%, our annual payment would be $517,000 a year. Over the course of that 10-year period, it would be $5.1 million for a total interest payment of $770,000. One project, and one project only. Mac Street, different name, same game. $3.7 million along the Mac Street corridor. Different name, same game. If we wait, if we delay, those costs are going to escalate over time. This is a simple time value of money. Everything's going to go up. We're not exempt from that. The summary of the AIA Asset Inventory Assessment calls for a capital improvement plan that eclipses $36 million. Just water. $36 million over a 10-year period. Do it now, do it later, but those costs are always going to be flexing back and forth between what those costs are. $36 million. Water leaks. The reason for this is the condition of the pipes. I was recently asked if we had capacity to do something in terms of sewer and water. Capacity is not our issue. Distribution is our issue. When we fail to invest in our underground assets, they will not sometimes, but they will always become underground liabilities. It's just a question of when. When you fail to invest in those assets, they become liabilities. Here's a case in point, the latest Mack Street leak. These are numbers are coming from Jason from Public Works. The cost for the Mack Street leak was $28,759. The cost for the Spring and Fifth, that some of you were aware of a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right at about $48,000. We haven't got the actual cost on it. These are only estimated costs. One leak, Spring and Fifth, a lot of people without water. That means those meters aren't turning when they're not getting that water. Therefore, there's no revenue coming in. It is not in our interest to turn the water off, except to keep it from blowing all over the place. There's the sewer report. Keep in mind what I just said. Water only, 36 million. Okay? The sewer report is a sister report to this that's going to be closer to around 40-something million dollars. I think 43 million to be exact. Same game, the projects that cost 43 million in sewer CIP. Now, if you're tracking that, I want you to think about how these revenues support the business-like activity. You just heard Jimmy talk a lot about business-like activities in terms of enterprise growth. Here's the case in point. We are expected to replace a sewer line. And it's on New Street. This is all public information, so forgive me, I'm not sharing anything that's top secret. There are 6 properties being fed by this sewer line. The cost to replace this sewer line, to include some demo of a building, pad, what have you, is $83,000. The property tax, that you refer to as ad valorem, on those properties generates roughly $1,000 a year on all 6 properties. $1,000 a year on all 6 properties. The water revenue for those properties is about $3,600. When you look at the rates, you see $50, $70, $37. Those $37 is close to the minimum rate because all they're doing is paying the base rates for their meters. That's it. They're not putting usage charges involved with that. That project at $83,000 with $33,600 a year in revenue, the break-even point on that is 23 years. And we absolutely have to do it. We owe it to the folks to fix those lines. We absolutely have to do it. Even though I crunch and crank and talk about numbers, how do you tell someone that your house is not, how do you tell them that we're not going to carry sewage? We're not going to replace the sewer leaking in the ground. We're not going to replace these pipes. You simply just can't do it. That's their homestead. That's their lifestyle. And so we've got to be able to focus on that. But this is just one example of the sewer component associated with $43 million. This is a big chart. And we'll go through this and we'll simplify all this. You can't see it. It is in your report. These reports have been provided by staff to the board via email. They will be posted on our website tomorrow for public review. This is what I'm trying to get to. Water and sewer, both of these reports, developed a CIP, a capital improvement plan with 6 projects, Rodale, Mack Street, Deerfield, here and there, water line replacement, sewer line replacements, upgrades, water tank improvements for pressure and volume issues. Forgive me for reading to you, but some may not be able to see it. It's difficult for me to see. Revenue increases for the water and sewer fund required to sustain the AIA-generated capital improvement plans result in customer-generated revenue increases of 20% in the first year of the planning period, followed by 18% in the second year, then 15% in each of the next 6 years, followed by 7% in year 9 and 5% in year 10. This translates into a monthly 5,000-gallon residential water and sewer bill, increasing an average of $29.52 monthly in each of the first 5 years, 115% at the end of the day, the only thing that really I think is important to recognize is that the residential bill from year 1 through year 10 is going to increase to $342 a month, which is a 268% increase. It's sickens. It is flat sickens. Concerns? This is one of the few times I asked the finance director to actually put this into a spreadsheet for me, so that you can see it. I hate spreadsheets, but there it is. I had to verify this.
I'm sorry. Can you guys still hear him? I think the sound went out.
Something happened. Yeah, I hear it. Okay. I thought something happened. But in any case, that means if you follow the recommendations of the CIP based on the asset inventory assessment, the customer using 5,000 gallons a month will have a water and sewer bill 10 years from now that is over $4,000 a year. Wow. Clearly we can't do that. Our consulting engineer is in the house, just did the AIM assessment. And one of the things that he's recommended is an alternative plan. That alternative plan is basically trying to stabilize the rate increases to do what you can, but it simply means deferring some of the maintenance and replacement. And so in other words, you're not going to do it now, but you're going to do it later. We're not going to pay for it now, but we're going to pay more for it later. And so that's trying to take and make sure that their bills are less, anywhere from 2.5% or to 4% of their, what is it, median household income in Spring Lake. It's an alternative model, but that alternative model to keep it within those reasonable rates is doing $40 million worth of projects, not $80 million worth of projects. And so you're still having to see these rate increases year over year over year to fund it. The way they do this alternative is say, okay, then we're just not going to do project 5 and project 6. We'll defer that till later, till year 11, year 12, year 13. Somewhere down the road, we'll take and deal with that issue. Right now, we're just not going to focus on it because it's not as high a priority as some of the other ones. But note, project deferral will increase the risk of potential failure. I don't know how you increase the risk of potential failure, what we're already facing, but somehow or another you do. That alternative model is about reducing the CIP, and it still calls for a 20% increase in fiscal year 27, an 18% increase in 28, a 15% increase in 29, and a 5% increase in 30, followed by 5% increases from then on out for the next 5 years after that. So basically a 10%. Or overall, a 49% increase in the rates over that 10-year period. I also want to respond to comments and questions that I frequently hear. I did and heard it at the last meeting about this. Well, why don't we get grants for it? They gave us a $250,000 grant, right? So they do an assessment on this. And so I would be kind of, how well has that worked out for us in the last 10 or 15 years getting grants to do this? Everybody is in a state of infrastructure flux. It's not just Spring Lake.
That's right.
It's everybody across the nation. Engineers are giving ratings on roadways, so we talk about PAL bills, we can talk about this, we can talk about all these different things. But every community is in this state of how do we maintain the infrastructure. I find no reason or no value in identifying fault. The only value I find is how we move forward to provide the services that are sustainable, to include quality drinking water, protecting the environment from sewer leaks and dumping excess stuff into our rivers and streams. That's important. So then it comes down to he also shared with you this concept of our debt service. We're not gonna get out of debt anytime soon. You cannot cash flow these projects. You just simply cannot do it, okay? Right now, to the best of our ability, talked about some of the budget amendments, to the best of our ability, we're only talking about the possibility of between $500,000 and $1 million per year of cash flow in these projects to fix stuff. You see that you get them on one day, $28,000, the next day, $50,000. All of those are coming out of the fund, and we're cash flowing those projects to do fixed maintenance and repairs. None of that is dead. So when you start talking about 4 million, 10 million, 20 million, whatever million you want to talk about, debt has to be used as an instrument to fund these repairs, maintenance, upgrades, whatever you want to call them, fixes in today's dollars, not 10 years from now dollars. Because every year that goes by, the value of that dollar declines. So we got to weigh the odds between using the debt as an instrument and then not using it, or even doing the repairs. Critical to that is that this concept of we that I hear about, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. We didn't do a lot of things. We could have done more, but we didn't. So at what point do we quit focus on fault and focus on we, and what can we do to make a difference in this community? I know I'm just beginning to preach, but I get kind of aggravated when I hear a lot of that stuff. But if you want to look at this little highlighted document here, it says that if you go for these grant funds, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, federal state conditions and LGC approval required. We went to borrow $700 and some odd thousand to buy police cars, and the local government commission flat out denied it, said no. So we can't even borrow $700,000 for police cars. How do you expect us to borrow $1 million, $5 million, or $10 million to fix it? And you can't cash flow it. There's just not enough cash there to do it. And you'll notice those are highlighted in every one of those. Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, LGC approval, State Reserve Program, the LGC approval. LGC did some good things, but when you want to talk about we didn't do anything, and now we're going to have to pay a lot more money because we didn't do anything. The whole POW bill is a perfect thing. Building up a balance. And then, all of a sudden you risk not even getting those dollars because you didn't do anything. Public Works, we're at the mercy of PwC. We purchase our water from them at a bulk water rate. We are talking about renegotiating the contract. It's due time, but that's not going to save us money. It's simply going to change about how we model and how much water we get allocated to us. It's from PwC because we don't get it from a lot of other places. We try to get more from Martin County. There's a cap on that. There's a limit how much we can get from Martin County. But if you look at this, they're already going to raise our rates by 21% in July, effective July 26th. That means that if we do nothing, we're going to take and have about a $300,000 loss. It's 276 up there basically, according to finance numbers. About a $300,000 loss that we're going to eat it. So that $300,000 that we're using to fix stuff, cash flow, poof, just like that, all right? That $300,000 from the utility fund that we're transferring to the general fund to support overhead, poof, just like that goes away. So when we choose certain things, we just need to be choosing wisely about what that means. And so I made a recommendation before that we increase the water rate in December, and it was declined by the board. I'm going to make that same recommendation, and it's still the choice of the board. The board still makes that decision. Staff does not make it, but we want to make sure that they're informed decisions and we share that information. It remains staff's recommendation to increase the water rate by 4.93%, to adjust and cover the 21% increase to purchase water. The increase will be effective beginning June 1, 2026. So we would hold off until June 1, 2026. The impact of that rate increase would basically, it's just to cover the increased purchase cost and to cover the transfer and cover some fixing stuff on a cash basis. At the end of the day, you know, if you do that increase, it's gonna go up about $5.82 a month. Another is an analysis of what a $20 million loan would look like. In order to fund a $20 million loan for 20 years at a low interest rate of 2.5%, you're looking at a rate increase of about 23%, just to look at for 20 years. Now this is what I think they deal with every day, 24/7. He's an attorney over here, so the numbers can glaze over. I can't get away from it. All right, it is a huge concern. Can't get away from it. It is staff recommendation. Now this one's tricky. All right, this is tricky because I got another recommendation after this. That to increase the TOSL water and sewer rate by 23% to cover the debt service for a $20 million capital improvement loan. The increase will be effective beginning December 1, 2026. That does a couple of things. Number one, in order to get LGC approval, you're going to have those audits done. So it's a time issue. You got to have that done, or you're not going to get LGC approval on anything. Right? And I'm fully aware of that. I just think this is something that needs to be thought about and on the horizon for two reasons. All right. In the absence of the audit, we have no bond rating. So pursuing bonds, revenue bonds, or whatever they may be, is really not on the table for us. We can go up to 10 million, but we can't get to 20 million to do water and sewer unless we get to the bond market and do different things. And we're not going to do that without a bond rating based on our financial statements and what we need to do. So it's another piece of the puzzle you got to be thinking about. I don't know that we've ever had a bond rating in Spring Lake. And a final recommendation is the last remaining piece that's missing from the asset inventory assessment is a sister project known as the Merger Regionalization Feasibility Study. It is a goal of state government, right, to combine water and sewer systems into regional providers so that you don't have little folks with 4,000 customers trying to fund an $80 million liability in water and sewer repairs. So a final recommendation would be to sell this $80 million liability based on appraised value. How much would the appraised value be if you're looking at an $80 million liability? I've got no idea. I have zero clue. You know, clearly it's not worth $80 million. Think back to the SLPA property. You know, I hate to say it, even how I got up to settle for $450. I went to the bank and said, please foreclose on this. They said there's no utility in it because they have to clean it up. That's how we got to get the settle for $450,000. Those are the three recommendations. I think we need to focus on some modest rate increase at this point just to continue to fund the transfers over to the general fund. In the absence of that transfer to the general fund, that's about a 5-cent tax increase. That's being supported by the utility fund. In the absence of that small 4.93% increase, that's $300,000 of repair and maintenance that you're not going to be able to do. Fair or bad news, I know. Here's what it is. So those are the recommendations. I'm going to leave it at that. I put this up there. What is the Board of Commissioners' direction? But at 8:30 at night, I would humbly ask if you would entertain this later, not tonight. Okay? I would humbly ask if you would do that. System development fees. Final comment on this is that this was really simple. We currently have in our budget charging the system development fee. You'll see here of about 120. If it's over 200 bedrooms in apartments, $125 per bedroom. For a 3-bedroom house, it's $625. Basically, anybody who's hooked into our sewer system, our water system, has to pay a fee to hook up. Because everybody else who created that system have already paid for that. Now, anybody who's new coming to town shouldn't have to be subsidized by those who've been paid for it. They should pay their fair share. That's what system development fees are about. It's not about maintenance. You can't use these fees for any maintenance. But we've done a part of assessment. Here's a perfect example. This piece of property right here is on Manchester. This piece of property right here is on Manchester. This piece of property here with my little mouse, or anything at the bottom of the page, is in the town of Spring Lake. Across the road is in Cumberland County. And so we have people that are in Cumberland County, not in the town of Spring Lake, want to hook up to the assets that belong to all of our ratepayers in Spring Lake. And they want to do it dirt cheap. No, I don't know why Harnett County's there. This is GIS, but it is Cumberland County. Good catch. I'm glad he did instead of you.
I'm trying to figure out why I'm receiving these messages late, but, yeah.
And so there's the, yes, it is not Harnett County. It is, yes, but it is in Cumberland County. And so I was asked, well, if they did that, would they have to annex? Absolutely. You know, yes, I think you would have to annex. And so that's another decision the board would have to make. That's not something the staff can make. And they're proposing to turn it into residential instead of commercial. Just keep that in mind. As it stands, that every ERU, equivalent residential unit, would pay a system development fee of $1,715 for water and sewer impact. The purpose of that, the reason for that is so that they can pay for expansion in the future. Not right now, but if you need to change the water line from a 6-inch to an 8-inch, different things to carry that additional capacity, they're paying for that expansion in the future. That sounds really, really good until you actually think about it. If you did a 200-unit apartment complex, that'd be $343,000. But note, in the past 2 years, we've only completed 82 COs, which means it would have generated $140,000. That could go toward expanding the capacity. It ain't gonna go far. So that's the financial impact. That's the raw numbers of what we're talking about here. It needs to be something, and it has to have a rational nexus. We can't just come up with a number and put it out there. It has to be evaluated. It has to be considered about what that expansion will be, what's the capacity, how do you have to add to that system. And with that, I'm going to give you one thing, and the reason why I'm bringing this up tonight is because by statute, we have to advertise or post for comments and a method to provide written comments in regards to this system development fee for 45 days. At the expiration of that 45-day period, the board can have a public hearing, and then they can adopt it and put it into your annual budget. Our annual budget is underway right now. Everybody in staff that's here received all their budget documents last Friday, Thursday or Friday.
Monday,
Yeah, we had this weather impacts, and so all these things going on. So they're working on them right now. The board will receive their budget documents tomorrow, and so you guys will have to start considering what those things are. But all of this ties into how we reduce the budget and how we get it moving forward. We can't just do something arbitrarily. We got to be focused on it. We got to have these debates. We got to have these discussions. With that, I would humbly ask not to entertain this tonight, except for one thing. For the board to provide us some direction at the very next meeting in regards to the system development fees as a minimum. Okay? So if there's any more information I need to share with you, I think I've shared this analysis of this report via email with you. If there's anything else that you need or any other comments, don't hesitate to ask. I'll try to provide that information ahead of what will be the next meeting. 23rd. So, because that is a juncture in terms of budget development that we need to
standard development fee. And you probably went over so much. I just received this document, she just sent it to me at 8:23. But anyway.
I sent it on, January 14th.
Yeah, but I received it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, on this, page 42, and you said for the units, it says, for example, a 200-unit apartment development would generate approximately, that's 343,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And you stated prior that it would generate 200 and something. So which one, what do you have on your paper? I'm just trying to.
200 units and 343.
Right.
So I think there's some limits there, they're both saying the same thing.
Okay, and then the standard development fee. Access. And a lot of this stuff that we're getting, and when you throw out just the initials, what it should mean. That 1,715 per unit. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
That stands for equivalent residential unit, and the assumption is 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom, which are current system development fees that are suspect in our budget. And so that's what ERU means, basically, on an equivalent residential unit. So that would apply to a single family dwelling, right, 1 fee. A duplex would be 2 ERUs, so that would be 2 fees. And then an apartment building with 200 would be 200 fees, that would get you to the 343,000.
Okay, thank you. Because Ms. Stanford she had iterated about these apartments that's coming up and not affordable and stuff like that. So those units that we have on 4th Street, as well as Spring Avenue, and the other ones they putting up, is this already in place?
This would only apply to new construction. It does not
Those
apply
are
to
new,
former.
they new, when
Yes.
you come out, once this is approved.
Yes, ma'am.
Because those are new.
But they're not new. This is issued at building permits, so those permits have already been issued, so it would not apply to those.
Okay.
Only those that were permitted beginning 45 days public hearing and adoption from that.
All right. But we did get something out of those units.
We didn't get a thing out of those units.
Nothing was out of the units?
Nothing out of those units.
Why?
Because our system development fees in the budget have been considered to be suspect and they do not meet the requirements of analysis from the general statute. So we did not collect on them.
But now they need it.
This does. Yes, this report does.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, we'll now move on to our mayor reports, and I will get through this as quickly as I can. Focus Group 4 met on January 21st. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, February 25th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. I attended our FAST stakeholders meeting where we were presented with alternative routes for transit coming into Spring Lake. I will bring that up at a later date once we get more information from FAST so that we can potentially, and it's a far ask due to budget restrictions about us bringing transportation through FAST back to our community, but we are working with Fast Transit to see how, if possible, we can move forward with bringing our bus system back. I was also able to attend the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Development Commission's data center information briefing, and I highly encourage our residents to become educated on AI and data centers, potential risks and benefits of having one, because AI is here, technology is moving forward, and it's either we get on board or we get left behind. So I encourage you to look into that, because in the near future I'll be bringing information about data centers back to the town. Wednesday, the 11th and 12th, I will be with at our North Carolina Mayors Association winter meeting where I am on the board of directors. On the 18th, here at Town Hall, we'll have coffee with the commissioners. This is open to the public, and I highly encourage you to come. Bring your neighbors. This is our time to talk directly with our Cumberland County commissioners and express our concerns or comments to them directly. So again, that'll be on Wednesday, the 18th at 6 p.m. right here in Town Hall. We also have our RULAC meeting, which I chair here Thursday on the 19th at 10 a.m. So if you are interested in plans for Fort Bragg and how that affects surrounding communities and counties, you can attend that this Thursday at 10 a.m. here in the boardroom. Lunch with the mayors will be Wednesday, the 25th, 12 p.m. at Ruby Tuesday. And Ms. Stanford is gone, but I did want to address the early voting sites. I have myself, along with other board members and community members, have gone to the Board of Elections on multiple occasions to advocate for our community. We have always been an early voting site for midterm elections. However, this time we were not approved. It was a split vote at the Cumberland County Board of Elections, which means that this process goes to the State Board of Elections in Raleigh. That meeting happened a week before last, where again, the State Board of Elections denied Spring Lake having access to early voting site. I will continue to fight for us to have equal and equitable voting access, but it is a long road ahead of us. And again, I can't do it alone. I need the support of the community to stand up with us, to advocate on our behalf. I'm also putting out a call far in advance. There are some decisions being made surrounding our local schools. There are talks of closing down Manchester Elementary and moving those students to W.T. Brown. I personally feel that is an extreme disservice to our community. They've already closed Lillian Black, and if they want people to enroll in Manchester Elementary, then bring the Manchester Elementary up to the proper standards. Closing down an elementary school would have impacts to our town economically that will rapidly put us on the road to closure. People don't move to an area where there's no schools. And so I need you guys to stand up with me. This fight is coming, and I am told, oh, it's way down the line, but I don't want to hear any talks of schools closing in Spring Lake after we've already lost one. So I'm putting out the call now. If you have any more questions about that, please get with me offline. And I'd be glad to arm you and equip you with information because the fight begins now. And that is all I have. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it was a long meeting. And thank you all to give us the opportunity to understand what we're talking about, and we're not just making motions and approving motions and not understanding. So I thank you all, and I appreciate you all coming out. Thank you for the work that you do, and continue to work hard for this great town of Spring Lake.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, this past Saturday, myself, former Commissioner Lackerman, and Mr. Charles and Armand went out and picked up trash. Here's a picture right there with four of us. It was cold out there. I know a lot of people always, request for areas to be cleaned up, but we do solicit volunteers and participants to come out there. So next month, we'd love to see you out there and bring a friend. Stay warm. That's all I have.
Commissioner Jackson.
I want to piggyback off of the closing of the Manchester School. I had a representative go up there to the board today to let them know they had a special meeting that we are concerned about our schools being closed. So March the 10th is the next meeting up at the board. So I'm looking forward to having everybody come up there. We will be up there speaking to let them know that that is not what we're looking for the town of Spring Lake.
Commissioner Gracious.
I appreciate everybody staying as long as they have. The last week was long also. Maybe in the future they won't be this long. But thank you for coming.
Commissioner Hooper.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one thing. I was recently appointed to Cumberland County Mid-Carolina Aging Advisory Council, and I will be attending my orientation on February 20th at the Mid-Carolina Regional Council office. Congratulations.
Mr. Roy.
I'm going to defer and actually ask some members of staff to come up and give a very quick briefing. And so, Stephanie, would you go first, please, from the Building Inspection Department in regards to minimum housing? This this kind of tag zone, talks about what we're trying to do in the community for our property values, for cleaning up the community, everything associated with junk piles and stuff. Minimum housing with Stephanie and the building inspections, and Sterling Baker will follow in regards to code enforcement inside the police department.
Alright, so I just wanted to give a quick update on, demolition that has been occurring here in the town of Spring Lake. So the first one, and we have pictures of this, is demolition is actually in progress right now. So it's the Liberty Estates, I don't know if you guys all know about it, it's 5 North Broad. It's, you know, D Street and Nolan Street. I think there was about 17 structures total. 7 have been torn down already by the property owner. He's actually out there tearing them down himself. We have driven past multiple times saying, hey, thank you. And he's hoping to get everything cleaned up, and then he's gonna put back, more mobile homes, newer, better, you know, better looking. So these were just some of the, pictures that I took. So I was trying to get like exact views, but you know, we got the before and after. Yeah, here's another one. Yeah, before, after. Yeah, they're just, I don't know if you guys driven down the streets before, but it is really bad. So here's like overall site cleanup. So here's some before pictures, and then here's some after pictures. So I encourage you to just drive down and just look at it. It's quite remarkable. Another one, we've got a contractor came in, bought the Rose Hill Park property. So it's like North and South Connor Street, Sigmund Street, and Leslie Street. There's 19 structures total. So demolition permits were issued to them January 23rd of this year. So I haven't driven past it to see if they started it, but they're tearing it all down. And then the next one is going to be, so Rosewood Rentals, it's the White Eagle Lane and Missy Circle. We actually went through the whole process. We got demolition ordinances against them to tear down those structures because he wasn't moving on it. Recently we did have a meeting with the owner, and we're trying to work with him. We're trying to be, as John puts it, be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So we should be, we're going to be tearing down 2 of his structures. Hopefully in the next couple weeks we're going to get that set off now with the cold weather being out of here. And then he's going to tear down one himself. So we're going to just see how this whole process works. But he's willing to work with us, and we're willing to work with him. I believe that is it.
Share the hallway comments in regards to going to this property.
Say what?
What were you told in regards to going to this property?
That I will be shot on site.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Yes. I told him that when I met with him, I told him to come talk to me now as long as it's Fred.
Well, outside of that last little bit, thank you, Stephanie, for being the bearer of good news.
You're welcome.
Shirley. Play ready call, man. Play ready call.
How is everyone doing tonight? It's been a busy past 5 months. I will say this keeps me busy. I took on this position about five months ago. This PowerPoint is a timeline of some of the problems, some of the issues that I've encountered over the past 5 months. Some have solved a lot of them. I've closed out a lot of stuff. This first slide here. Alright, this slide one. It was October 1st, 2025. This was my first day. We had 207 code enforcement violations. As of today,
Can I get you to speak into the mic?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Because so people can hear at home
Yes,
on
ma'am.
YouTube.
I'm sorry. As of February 9th, today, there has been, since October 1 until now, there's been, I've closed out 833 code enforcement violations. There are currently 74 pending cases. And I feel that we're getting a lot of cases closed. We're getting a lot of cases closed out. The reason we still have 74 is that I try to work with people. I know people, they have all my lives, they got kids, they got a job, so I try to work with people. This next slide here, 11/13/25. We had 30 Spring Lake employees that took the streets of the Deerfield neighborhood. We gave out 318 green compliance plaques. There were 120 red violations. These violations they consisted of junk piles, they consisted of vehicles in the right of way, had a couple of high grass. It was a variety of things. Now, at this violation here, I wanted to give you guys a couple of examples of some of the things that I encounter on a daily basis. This violation here is 116 North Rock. The violation, when I first noticed this was back on November 6, 2025. The residents that live there, I've tried to work with them. I've given them verbal warnings, and as you can see here in my note here, a letter has been sent, a letter has been mailed out, a letter has been hand delivered as well. The letter was mailed out and hand delivered on January 28th, which tomorrow, coming a little early tomorrow, this individual will be given a criminal citation. So that's the method of how I kind of been dealing with things. We have yet to sit down and see as far as the finding goes of how we're going to find people, what's going to be the timeline on it and stuff like that. This next violation is 213 LaCotte Street. I opened this case on January 13th, 2026. A letter was mailed out, a letter was hand delivered as well. The letter was mailed out on February 5th. On 2/18, this gentleman will be issued a criminal citation as well. As you can see in the yard, he pretty much has a salvage yard in his yard. I've had a verbal conversation with him, so he has a little more time before he is issued a criminal citation. Here's some of the closed violations here, which I know you all were familiar with. 1159 North Prague. I mean, for the past 5 months, I have opened and closed this case. I've opened and closed this case 3 times. Finally made contact with Grant Murray, which I've tried to work on with him, but it's gotten to the point to where I said, hey, look, enough is enough. So finally, they're in the works of this week. They're going to put a barrier up. We've also talked to Chief, our LPR. We're going to put our LPR out there, so anybody that comes up there that they're trying to dump stuff, it will either alert me or alert Chief, and say if I'm not on shift, I'll be able to let a patrol unit go out, and if we have to cite that person or if we have to take them to jail or we're going to find them, we will go from there.
LPR is a license plate. LPR is a license plates reader. It's the little scanner that police have that they can read your license plates from a long distance.
Yes, which we currently have 2 now. We're gonna put up one. I know I talked to Chief about it. It'll be here in the weeks to come. We will have a LPR that should deter a lot of this stuff. So, as you can see, they cleaned this up last Friday on February 6th. But like I said, it's been a constant thing with them, and I'm hoping that this will be it. This is another closed violation here. This is 1631 Hinkle Street. The incident was opened on 11/6/25. The incident was closed on 12/16. She had a accumulation of trash bags. They were just all over the yard. But this was just a few things. I mean, I feel like with the code enforcement, we're really getting a lot of things done. I feel like we're going in the right direction as on my town, because I mean, we're really getting this place. It's a slow, like as of right now, with just being me, you know, it's a slow, I would say it's a slow process right now, but the fact that we started this November, I started this position October 1st of last year, and we've already closed out 833 on my case, so I feel like we are getting somewhere with it. Because it's a lot different when you show up at somebody's house and they know that they can be, not only can they be fined, but they can be criminally charged too as well. So I really feel like we're going in the right direction with this. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Just to close out, that is focus group 2, code enforcement is focus group 2 in our strategic plan, and infrastructure and code enforcement. Alright, so, focus group 1 is the AIA, infrastructure in terms of all the stuff that we're doing, and 3 starts to talk about minimum housing, affordable housing, and then 4 is finally economic development. At the end of the day, it's really about rising tide raises all boats. We've got to look at this citywide. We cannot just influence one location. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Mr. Porter?
I have nothing left. It covers a lot of what I was saying.
All right, I'm gonna entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A6 personnel. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I make the motion.
Commissioner Jackson? Go ahead, Mr. Commissioner.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. We're now in closed session. Thank you all for coming out and staying to the end of this meeting. The work of the town. got quorum. Entertain motion to come out of closed session. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor? What are we?
Making a motion to leave the light commission.
I make a motion that the Board of Commissioners terminate the employment of the contract of the town manager effective immediately.
Yeah. Is there a second? Any discussion? Motion was made to terminate the contract of our town manager.
I also have another motion.
We haven't finished this one yet.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we show of hands? Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Jackson.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Commissioners appoint Dennis English as interim town manager effective immediately with the authority and duties prescribed by law and subject to the terms approved by the board.
I got a discussion since it's out there.
A motion was made. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, discussion. It wasn't second either. All right, discussion.
Can I ask a question?
You absolutely can.
So, sir, who contacted you?
I don't think
She can ask the question.
You can't do that. We been talking to the people out there. We haven't been able to before. Is that right, attorney? We haven't been able to do that before. We haven't been able to do that before. We're not gonna do that now. That's illegal. We can't do that. I made a motion. You can't discuss my motion with the people out there in the state. Listen to you as well.
Point of clarification for the motion, is there a rate of pay?
Yeah.
Just so we know, if we're appointing someone as the town manager, I'm assuming that he's not doing this.
He's an intern, not a town manager.
You still have to pay the intern.
I understand that, but he's an intern. And we said, the motion was, I moved that the Board of Commissioners appoint Dennis England as interim town manager effective immediately with the authority and duties prescribed by law and subject to the terms approved by the board.
Okay.
So we will meet again to approve all of that, but for tonight, we want to recognize him as interim town manager.
I didn't hear that last part.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
There was a lot going on.
Okay. All right. Mr. Commissioner Burgess, he seconded.
All in favor?
No, discussion.
That was a discussion or question.
Oh,
Did you have discussion?
Please let her
Go
know she
ahead.
cannot discuss inside the,
Commissioner
inside
Jackson.
Mayor.
Can we have some order, please?
We can, I'm talking to
Commissioner
the attorney. I'm talking to the attorney. So
You have to be recognized.
well, if you will be quiet and do that, then we can do that.
You know what? Commissioner Cooper.
I just wanna say I'm vehemently against this. I feel like Spring Lake is going to go back, and this could be the dissolution of this community. A community where my family, were some of the first founders. That's it.
I will also, add that I think this is a terrible decision, that's being made. We are allowing ourselves to repeat the same mistakes that got us right here in the first place. We have no plan, we have no foresight, we have people who have not worked with Mr. Rory deciding the fate of this town. We've seen what happened before, and we will head there again. This is the wrong decision for this town. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.